Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bold Voices. I'm Angela Belcamino. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Please interact with us in the chat. We love to hear your thoughts, feedback, weigh in on what we're talking about. And if you have not subscribed on YouTube, please do so. If you're on X or Rumble, like, repost. We appreciate all that. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the support. Hope everyone's having a good week. I am so excited to have with me on the panel tonight, Madeline, Elizabeth, and Jay. Thank you guys both so much for being here. I always love hearing your bold takes. And again, we want to hear all your bold comments and takes in the chat. We will try to, bring them up on the screen and answer any questions or, throw out what you're thinking, what your thoughts are. So today, one of the main topics, if not the main topic of the day, has been whether President Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota. Obviously, the situation there is chaotic, to say the least. And this is what Trump is saying. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter. For those of you who don't know, the Insurrection Act grants the president authority to deploy the military or National Guard troops to respond to the situation in Minnesota to suppress civil disorder, insurrection, rebellion. It's one of the generally the federal troops don't get involved in domestic law enforcement. So this is one of the broadest exceptions to that. But essentially, is this warranted in order to establish and restore order in the current chaos and the violence? Also because, the leaders in that state are, would we say, possibly encouraging violence because they're criticizing ICE? Is it escalating things? So the question is, is this necessary? As most things lately, this is a very polarized issue. It's law and order versus civil liberties. It's protecting federal authority and agents versus authoritarian overreach, some might say. Some are saying it's a threat to democracy. You have the clashing of the federal versus state responsibilities. Democratic leaders like Tim Walz and Mayor Trey are criticizing ICE, as I mentioned, and Trump is saying that they're failing to maintain order there. So that's the question, guys. And please interact with us and let us know your thoughts because, as per usual, it's all over the place. Is the situation... Oh, and so also in breaking news on this, which we just found out before we started, here's a little breaking news for you.
Time for the Insurrection Act, or would that just add gasoline to the fire?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that, but it's certainly an option, a viable option. So actually, I'll be meeting with the president tomorrow. So, I think it's something that needs to be on the table because this cannot continue. There is going to be more bloodshed. I'm telling you. I hope I'm wrong, but I haven't been yet. There's going to be more bloodshed if something hasn't done.
It's going to spread, and most Minnesotans, by the way, and I want to say this tonight because folks have reached out to me, support ICE. It's this radical group of anarchists, and when you see them close up, you really get a sense of who they are. It's this crowd, a lot of them paid, a lot of them working, double shifts of protest against the rest of the state, which are reasonable, common sense, peaceful people of all backgrounds, including immigrant backgrounds. They don't like what's happened in the Twin Cities. And we're going to expose more about Jacob Fry in a moment. But Tom, I think most people are good people. They want the bad people out, and they want some peace in their neighborhoods.
And we're going to get the bad people out. And as far as the organization, everybody that's planning these protests, giving these people weapons and funding this, again, justice is coming because we're deep diving that whole thing.
So Tom Homan announced that he's going to be meeting with President Trump tomorrow about the potential of invoking the Insurrection Act. Is the situation in Minneapolis truly an insurrection by legal definition? Does it justify bypassing the states? When does protest, cross into rebellion? These are some interesting questions on the table right now. What do you guys think?
Kash Patel just posted too on his page. It was 15 minutes ago. The FBI is investigating every single organization and person responsible for funding and contributing to organization of these violent protests like the ones in Minneapolis, as well as going after violent criminal actors themselves. So he just posted that. I hate to get my hopes up after the past year, but hopefully that's true. But yeah, for sure, like you cannot have, and I would say this for Joe Biden too, you can't have mayors and governors bucking the president like this in this way. And it's one thing to be critical. It's one thing to be try and do different policy or something like that. It's another thing to have violence against law enforcement out in the streets, and they are a part of this. They're bad actors that are playing off the whole thing, funding it, right? They're sending in Antifa and stuff like that. And so they have to get this under control regardless. And I don't see ICE and local police who are at ends with each other doing this together. I just don't see it happening because of their differences on the deportation or whatever. But you still have this problem of these violent protesters that you have to get under control. So I'm absolutely for him invoking this, bringing in the National Guard, getting it under control, and then having the discussion afterwards.
We have some comments here from Bobby that I want to bring in real quick before we. So Bobby says, even my local Missouri news is reporting on where ICE cars are, etc. Breaking into cop cars and creating roadblocks means it's called for. Liberals respectable, but far left not respectable. We need Democrats, not far leftists. I mean, I agree with all of this because that's what I've been saying, people. I think it's bold. It's bold to be a lib who has common sense and is reasonable and doesn't take it to this extreme. And this violence is uncalled for. It's just so wild, and it's just escalating and getting more heated and more violent. So very, very concerning.
I lived through the 2020 protest in LA, the Black Lives Matter riots. They were pretty much right outside my gated community. Thank God, when we had security in our, where we were, but when I would walk out my dogs, we watched the rubber bullets. We would watch from the roof, a bunch of us. And it was so sad. You would see cop cars just burn down. My favorite coffee shop across the street, I walked my dogs to every morning, just broken, burnt down. I mean, if a Republican did anything like this, we would already be in jail. And that's my issue is I think we should have already sent in the National Guard, because from what I saw in LA was the ICE, well, it wasn't ICE at the time, but the police were not doing their job. They could not get the unrest handled. And the numbers kept beating them no matter where it was. And what would happen is they would all go to when one end would get really busy, they would open up a whole nother group like downtown. And the cops didn't have the numbers in LA at the time. Now you have cops working against ICE agents. You have different groups coming in from everywhere, mixing in. And we know these are probably not even all they probably don't all natively live there. These are probably people coming in from out of town to do this as well.
Right.
So,
The good lady she was from out of town. She's not from there. Like, they had Ohio license plates, and they said that they were, even her wife is on camera saying that we just got here. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, what in the heck? Why? Like, these Karens have nothing better to do than get in their cars and like go protest. And the bottom line is this: we see Omar out in the streets with these protesters, like being like so proud of you and just like egging them on. She should be arrested. I think any politician or leader, they always say if you're a leader, you should be setting an example. They know better. If you are any attorney that gets in trouble when you go before a judge, the judge always says to an attorney, you know better. You know the law. You're not your clients. You know the law. These leaders of ours that know better, who are inciting violence, the rhetoric, and going out on these streets and just pushing it further, they should already be in handcuffs. And if it was the Republicans, we would already be in jail.
Yeah, well, I'm not accusing her of knowing her, but she was also with somebody at the protest who was one of the people that broke into the FBI car and stole the gun and everything. She was with they have her on camera next to the girl, and then the girl is there when they're breaking into the FBI car or whatever and stealing the gun or whatever. I'm not saying that she knows her, but that's the company that she's in right now.
Yeah, no, it's right. Like it's supposed to be peaceful protests, right? Like peaceful protests. Like what about this seems peaceful?
It's not. They're like pushing over ICE agents. They're like tripping them and stuff like that. It's like
hitting them with a shovel.
Right.
Like,
I will say it is scary when I was in my 20s. My family all lived across the country. I'm in LA, and it was scary when you'd go to the Grove, go to your local supermarket, and you'd have these like the National Guard walking through your like market with these big guns. And you're like, oh my God, am I in Europe? You'd feel like you're in Europe, right? Or like Italy, somewhere walking the streets. But I wasn't. I was in LA. But at the same time, it was so much quieter. You did feel safer. And I felt like life could finally start to get back to normal. And at that rate, then you know what? All of the children and the communities surrounding these protesters, they deserve to go back to normal. These kids do not deserve to live in this. And at the end of the day, we should send in the National Guard, set an example. If we'll show strength to Iran by flying across the country, all of our warplanes, we should at least, I think we can bring National Guard in and show our strength to the other side and say, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, the other piece is they're bringing in Antifa and stuff like that. These people live for this stuff. Go to Portland, go to Seattle in the summertime, go on May Day. Like it's that, like I used to live in Washington State. I'm telling you, it happens all the time. These people live for this stuff.
So does the Middle East.
But, if you think they're going to back down, you are crazy. They are not afraid. They're going to keep coming. If they're getting banged for their buck right now. Whoever is funding this, whoever is sending them there, they know that they're getting banged for their buck. It's all over national news. It's all over social media. They know that they are getting a rise out of them. And so you have to shut it down. There's no other way that President Trump can do this. I don't see any other outcome that works in this situation. That it's not going to get calm. It's just going to keep boiling until summertime hits, and then they're going to burn the entire city down.
The reason a lot of the ICE agents, though, and the cops, I also feel are probably lazy, they don't want to arrest people, is, I said this, I think, on one of the last shows, is this is going to be an OR bond. They're going to take them in. They're going to take a whole car full of them there. Probably a lot of them don't have priors, or they're very minimal criminal records, because a lot of them will probably be Karens that go. And at the end of the day, it's going to be, they get OR bonded before we can even tweet it. Like that's crazy. So, that's not going to be really what sets an example, because let me say this, a lot of these people, unless they're hardened criminals with no fear, if they're out there like protesting, they've never really been to jail and like lived in like solitary confinement or any of that, or they wouldn't be risking their life, because everyone knows like you learn a lesson by being stuck in jail, right? And so I don't think a lot of these people that are young, a lot of these people are also young too. They look like straight out of high school, college. They've probably never been in trouble. And if they have, it's very minimal. And that's why I think it's almost like for the ICE agents, they are always like, I don't want to arrest you, because they know arresting them is really not going to do anything but waste time and create more paperwork. What we need to do is we need to bring in the National Guard, prove a point, show strength. And at the end of the day, DOJ needs to come out, and FBI, whoever it is, and whatever they need to do to work together. And we need to see somebody with actual power be indicted. I'm not even talking to perp walk. That would be a dream for all of us. But like, let's just see an indictment.
You brought up a good point about precedent. I think precedent is so important. You have to, because it either encourages or discourages similar behavior in the future, right? So condoning it sets a precedent that encourages people to continue, this type of violent, chaotic behavior in the future. So I do think that's super important, to think about. So I do think precedent is really important here, which you mentioned. It's interesting. The Insurrection Act hasn't been invoked since 1992 in the LA riots. And before that, in 1957 for desegregation by Eisenhower. So you brought up 2020, Madeline, like that is interesting. It wasn't invoked then.
Yeah.
So
yeah, a little different, but the National Guard did still have to come in. And I can tell you that it made a huge difference. From somebody who lived it, and if I sent you guys the pictures of like my city and of like what I lived in, I was afraid when it first started, because right out my gate, you could look right out and you could see just police sirens everywhere. You saw all the like different officers out there with their rubber bullets guns. This woman walked by me and she had blood like dripping down. We were walking out like our gate, dripping down her face because she got hit with a rubber bullet. And listen, that's on her. But at the same time, I just saw today some kid got hit with a rubber bullet and now is blind in one eye for the rest of his life. I'm sure a lot of people saw it. He was all over the media. I think the other thing is as long as this continues to go on, more is at stake. We're going to have officers' lives at stake, and we're going to only continue to push each other further like apart, and more accidents are going to happen. And then, that cop's life is ruined that shot that woman. It's ruined. Regardless if he ever has to go to court, anything like that, his life is ruined. People are going to smear his name till the end. And so I don't want to continue to see that either. So I think the best thing is to bring in the National Guard. And I saw how quickly, it was as quick as when California governor cleaned up San Francisco and all the homeless disappeared when Xi Jinping came into town. It was insane. If they want to do something, they will. And I think this is the best option.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear based on your personal experience. I think that's really helpful for people to hear and to know, and should give people hope, or at least say something for, how effective that could be, or, whether it's warranted. So I think that that's a really helpful, personal experience that you have, that you shared. For anyone who is wondering what an insurrection is sort of defined as, ChatGPT, we might as well use the AI for something good, right?
Yeah.
Whether you agree or not. So basically, the definition here is commonly understood as a violent uprising or organized resistance against the authority of a government with the intent to overthrow, obstruct, or undermine its lawful powers. Key elements typically include use of threat or force, collective action, not just an individual act, targeting governmental authority or the execution of its laws. So that just kind of speaks to, is it warranted, right? Because there's all these people saying, oh, it's not, and presidents don't do this. And so that's just some other interesting information. There are a lot of theories out there, dare I say, conspiracy theories out there. A lot of people on the left, a lot of Democrats, with claims and fears that President Trump intends to provoke or exploit chaos to invoke the Insurrection Act, escalate to martial law. So that's part of this conversation is people are worried that it starts with the Insurrection Act and moves into martial law and ultimately cancels or suspends the 2026 midterm elections. So essentially what that looks like is they're thinking manufacture unrest in the blue Democratic areas to justify federal or military intervention, declare martial law, suspend elections to prevent GOP losses, impeachment, and accountability. Grounded in reality? Is there any, or is this?
I think that's dangerous rhetoric, in my opinion. I think it's dangerous, and I think everyone knows it's not true. We have a lot of people on the ground. There's a lot of congressional candidates. There's governor races across states. People are spending tons of money. The 2026 election is on. No matter what, things are going to change. There are people that are retiring from Senate and whatnot, like Mitch McConnell, thank God. He's been in office since 1985. He's been in office longer than I've been alive. Like, what?
That's a fun fact.
I say that because I'm from Kentucky and unfortunately I've helped get him elected. So, or reelected. So let me say that too. But we're not going to cancel elections. I really think this is about the fact that we need to get what's happening on the ground in order. We have people in other countries asking us to come in and help get keep from protesters getting killed and hurt. I think it's the same thing. We don't want to see the violence continue on the streets, and this might be the best way to do it.
And it is violent. It is a very violent situation, and people are dying, and that is a very serious matter. So, and I can say from personal experience, I'm even getting the text, from being on these lists, for liberal and Democratic, take action, call to action kind of stuff. And it is pretty dangerous. The severity of what we need to do, and everything is at stake. And, it's very, very dramatic, very severe. We need to gather and take a bus and go, and democracy's at stake. And
shout out to all the senators and House that just voted for the NED and the democracy and to continue this bullshit. Thank you for that. Just want to throw that out there because that's relatable too.
And it's, again, I welcome all points of views and perspectives, and I can get behind some of it or have some concerns about things. But this level of I'm worried about the level of drama and anger and like you said, inciting on either side. That worries me. So I have concerns about that. And I also hate that it's so extreme that if you ask a question about that, all of a sudden you're a fascist and a Nazi and a white supremacist. I'm being called that just for being do we think this is the right move? Is it? I mean, it's fair to be is this fear mongering? Is this, it is escalating everything and making people really angry and aggressive and violent.
Well, think about they're so bold that they're doing this to ICE agents, right? They're pushing over
bold in that context.
Well, I mean, they're but they're so confrontational. They're doing it to federal law enforcement agents. Imagine if you just live there, right? You just live on one of these streets that they barricaded or whatever, and you're paying your taxes, your kids are going to school, you got nothing to do with any of this shit. And you're are they going to burn down my house? What the hell's going on? You got nothing to do with this. People live there, it's stupid, and they need to go home, and they need to let ICE do their job. That's it.
A 20-year-old to drive by cop cars that are just lit on fire. If I showed and these are Apple Live photos, so they cannot be untold. It's scary. So that's why when I brought up children 5 minutes ago, I just want to touch on Jay's point. It was scary for me. And so I can't imagine these kids that have to walk out to the school bus and see all these. Also, what example are we setting for the future and for our children when all these Karens are time to go to school. I got to go take these pancakes and the hot coffee to all the protesters. What are you teaching your children, your neighbors? What are we doing?
That's a really, really good point. And paints a really good picture, because you're right. What are how do they justify that this is appropriate behavior and that they can be proud of it and it's something to model for other people, children, young people. Yeah, that's a whole other side of it that's really important to acknowledge. Absolutely. And based on your experience, once again, you can speak to that. A lot of people are also getting a bit confused here. I think they conflate the Insurrection Act with full martial law. Like a little bit of that is going on here, right? My understanding is that the Insurrection Act the Insurrection Act nor martial law authorizes canceling elections. Those are administered by states under the Constitution. The Insurrection Act is meant to be more of a tool for limited military intervention, whereas the martial law is a far more drastic measure. This would be a sharp departure from past uses and would likely face legal challenges. So it's not just like, oh, Trump could easily go from this to this. And then, so I think it's a lot of jumping to conclusions and seeing those things like, oh, it would be so easy. But I think there's a lot of roadblocks along the way where people would be resistant and asking questions and legally and consequences and all of that, you know? Does that make sense? I think based on what I looked into about it.
The funny thing is it's always the left that get away with this, but like what about the Palisades and all the fires happen and then they just want to sell off the land and say, hey, you have to pay this in order to basically keep your house and rebuild, right? There's a lot of things that go on in some of these really Democrat run cities, but if Republicans speak up, they're not the majority. And so they just have to live in the chaos, right? But it's like the minute we want to come about and actually try to tone down all the chaos and actually make any type of move to show strength, we are going to do something just radical. I think, and honestly, I feel like this administration's proved that we're not radical. We've done nothing. Like the DOJ's done nothing to prove we are radical. The FBI's done zero to prove we are radical. Venezuela is the most strength we've shown, and it's not. I wish we were more radical about like coming into the cities here than we were about wanting to go to cities out of our country.
Right. Well, yeah, and they're like behind on everything. They're like 10 steps behind on everything. Like Nick Shirley showed the daycare fraud. Now they've had time to kind of cover it up and like come up with documentation and try and make it look legit or whatever. And it's like, bro, this is like 2 weeks ago that you should have been already in there, like dealing with this. Now you've given them the opportunity to pretend like it's all legit and come up with something, provide documentation. You can talk to residents that were across the street that said they've never seen a kid there. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's taking so long to get some action on these things? And I just don't get it. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have, that more than anything is going to lose the 2026 midterms for us is that right there. Like just doing absolutely nothing about this known problem that's been exposed that people with common sense can see is an absolute fraud. There's no way that these kids were going to daycare in these freaking places and you haven't done anything about it. And they're probably going to keep funding it. Honestly, they're probably still funding the same thing.
Well, and I think it takes away from like this week, you know, we had a huge Trump passed where we're going to make whole milk great again. Today, Taiwan agreed the tariff, you know, they agreed to their trade deal, which they agreed to 500 billion more investment. And that left them with the trade deal of only 15% on tariff now. We've been waiting on the Taiwan deal for a long time. There's a lot of great things happening that the administration are not able to highlight enough because of all these stupid things that are going on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. They just want to keep talking about this. Also, when all this keeps going on, which everyone knows this Minnesota, this story's been going on for a long time. Indictments had already happened prior to this administration. It also kind of scares me because this story caught wind really quickly. Like, what are we missing? Like, is there something that like really like, are they going to use this to do something? Because there's a lot of attention here And usually when we're putting a lot of attention places, it gives Democrats a lot of time, or the swamp a lot of time to do things that, you know, they want to get away with. And that really scares me.
Well, that's interesting because, I mean, Tim Walz is pretty sus right now because he's, you know, I feel like we talk about distractions and, oh, look over here. So there's a lot of focus, right, on like criticizing ICE and everything that's going on right now, and sort of escalating and kind of encouraging, we would say, potentially violence. I'm sure it's a welcome distraction for him to be like, oh, let's, you know, and ignore all of this fraud stuff. And
let's ignore Epstein. I mean, not that I'm a big like get the Epstein docs released, but there's a lot of things we're overlooking. Also, I'm watching if the refugee list starts opening up for Venezuelans, I will be watching, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching that too, because I'm not about to start importing Venezuelans.
Yeah. We don't, yeah, we need to get our legal immigration under control before we do anything. To be honest with you, I'm with Laura Loomer on this one. We need to have a stay on all immigration until we get the illegal immigration under control. We need to cut it. Once you get that under control, then we can talk about immigration again, and maybe even streamline the process so it doesn't take 10-15 years for somebody who's good that comes and has, you know, skills or whatever. Like I'm okay with that, but and also when they come here too, they should not be on any type of public assistance. If you come to this country, you should have a way to provide for yourself. That's the only, like, for like at least 10 years you shouldn't receive any like welfare or anything like that. There's no like, I just don't see why we do that. No other country does that.
So first of all, Chris, thank you so much for reposting the stream. Deb said, get ready for no more elections. Bobby said, Deb, us on the right side would not let Trump do away with the vote. I don't think you guys want no elections.
It's not going to happen. That's a pipe dream.
And I don't want that either, because at the end of the day, there's people I want to primary. There's people I want to get out. And at the end of the day, like, if the Democrats did that, we still have to have follow the Constitution. And I am all about following the Constitution and what our founding fathers wanted, and they would not have wanted that. So no, I am not. And I don't believe we are going to try to cancel the elections.
Yeah.
George asked if it was a comedy podcast, and then he said it should be more funny. So guys, our note is that we need to be funnier. But you know, there's a lot of we do joke, we do laugh, we do think that's important. Jokes are welcome, that's correct. But you know, there is a lot of serious stuff going on, and so we're talking about that. But yeah, we do like to have fun too, and we all need some comic relief. So that does happen also, but it is not specifically a comedy podcast. But appreciate your feedback. Thank you guys for being here, sharing the stream. Please chat with us. We love to hear what you're thinking. What else about this? I do have a Tim Walz comment, but what would, Jay, maybe this is a question for you. What would actual deployment, I guess we sort of kind of touched on this already, but if there's anything you want to add, what would actual deployment of troops look like? And it sounds like we think it would calm things rather than escalate things, correct? Like, it seems like we're all on the same page about that.
Yeah, I mean, on the use of force continuum, it's the first step, officer presence, right? So it puts more people out there. It's just kind of a show of force, I guess, is what it's going to do, and hopefully, you know, it'll calm some of these people down. Obviously, they're not going to, you know, what they're doing right now especially with the ICE agents, is they outnumber the ICE agents by 10 to 1. That's why they're able to get away with this. They can't arrest every single person out there, but when you have, you know, a bunch of National Guard standing with you arm in arm or whatever, then it's a little bit different situation. You're not going to be able to get away with pushing ICE agents over and stuff like that. You're not going to get away with that. So in terms of that, it's, you know, it provides them a lot of relief, and it provides them the ability to do their job a lot better. So
that
and
makes
safer.
Yeah.
I think it's surreal, but I will say that they do bring in, typically National Guard will bring in tanks. And I don't know if it's because they like to, that's what they drive in on, or if it's for optics. But I will say that when you see, for the normal person, especially for probably some of the Karens, not the real radical ones, but when you see these tanks driving down your street and you start seeing National Guard and you have your children, once the protests are over and you have to go, the Karens leave to go pick up their kids or to go to, their PTA meetings, whatever it is, it changes you when you start to go into the grocery and you're taking a break and you see the National Guard military walking through, the market with a gun around them, and you're like, wow, because you're just not used to that in the States, right? And so a part of it is, I also think it's a show of strength, and it does show the severity of where we are at as a country and as a state and as a city. And I really do think it does kind of start to simmer down because there is that fear. And when these big groups were coming in, like different streets from different places, they would just start sending the tanks down the street. And, the cars, people are jumping in front of these cop cars. And they're like, it's crazy. You watch them and they're like, I would run them over. Like, I'm afraid to run over a kid on a scooter every day. Like, I would probably have already run one over if I was a cop by accident, pure accident, or an ICE agent. So, yeah, these tanks don't care. They'll just keep going, and you will, it changes, I feel like, the whole trajectory of how the protests can line up and really work.
Well, yeah, the other piece is too is there are National Guard units out there that train in crowd and riot control. They specialize in this stuff. That's a lot of what the National Guard is for, is for things like these. Whereas an ICE agent, their job is to go out and find these, these career criminal, people, and then line them up for deportation. They're not really prepared for like dealing with huge crowds of people. That's not really what normally they would be doing. So they'll also help in that respect too, because they'll be able to keep them down. They have more gear, they have the right gear and stuff like that. And so that's, again, it's more about keeping things safe. I don't want to see people getting shot out there. I just want to see people, ICE able to do their job.
Related but unrelated, I saw a video online about, and it was a postal worker. They got letters, I guess, right before Christmas or around the holidays. And the last time they got a letter like this, I could probably find it and share it. But the last time they got a letter like this was prior to the pandemic. And it talks about like there's going to be unrest in the streets. There could be a pandemic. Basically, that they'd still need to deliver their packages and do their duty, because they're obviously federal workers. And I'm like, the last time they got this was obviously, they said, during the pandemic. And so to me, I'm like, what do we not know? Because a lot of people saw things in different plans that we kind of had a feeling the pandemic was coming. Do they just suspect that unrest is going to break out throughout the cities? I know there are a lot of conspiracies and people that are starting to think that unrest is coming. And I can say that's not the way we want to go.
No.
No, nobody does.
But isn't that odd? Like, what are the coincidences? And it was a postal worker. I guess somebody else broke it, and then a postal worker came out and like was a whistleblower and like held up the letter. It was interesting. I'll have to share it underneath the
stream. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, please do.
I will.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I love that you said that, Jay, about the goal of keeping people safe, because I think that's getting lost here. Like a lot of this rhetoric that's happening on the left and with Democrats is not that. It's basically like they're monsters. They want to hurt people. They're doing unfair, abusive things. And like, we need to, come in with force and do all. And it's like, that part gets lost where these agents are, this whole, like, they are doing their job. And again, yes, there are poor examples. There are mistakes. There are people who do the wrong thing. That happens in any job. But yeah, this whole like demonizing, like they're monster. It's like, this action, the goal of it would be to keep people safe.
Yeah, and there's a lot of collateral damage too from the George Floyd riots or whatever. Like, because I'm from there, right?
Yeah.
And I had a friend from high school that had his business burned down. Like, he had nothing to do with any of that, and
Mm.
his freaking business was burned down, and so like, it's just ridiculous. Like, it's so stupid. Like, what did that prove by burning his business down? Like, absolutely nothing. And he had to deal with that and rebuild and find a new location and all this other shit. But like, why does he have to deal with that? You know what I mean? That's bullshit. Like, he had nothing to do with George Floyd's death. He had nothing to do. He's not a cop. He doesn't do anything. Like, he's just had this business that his dad handed down to him, and now it's burned down.
Yeah, that's an important story to hear, for you to tell, right? Those, like, we don't hear those things. And that's, storytelling to me is so important, and something that I try to do with live streaming and podcasting, so that it's that, Madeline was saying earlier, that sense of humanity and connecting as humans and getting to know more about people and their stories, how this impacts them, how this affects them. We're not hearing that, right? We're hearing about Robin's story, which is a very sad one, like, but there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of sides of what's going on here. So I appreciate you sharing that, because that is that collateral damage, like you mentioned. A lot of people are hurt throughout this situation.
Yeah, and I don't, I haven't been there in a while or whatever. And where Tim Walz lives, it's on Summit Avenue in St. Paul. And it's really like, there's mansions lining down there or whatever. And it's really nice. My great grandmother used to live there. But I've talked to people that are still living there or whatever. And I guess there's like a regular, like, carjackings right there. And like right on, like, this, it's a beautiful avenue with huge houses and stuff like that. And apparently, like, it's called Midway, is the inner city part that kind of touches that area or whatever, and that's bleeding over into there. And I guess there's carjackings and stuff like that happening just right blocks away from the governor's mansion.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, again, with like, what's appropriate. Like, if you're upset about something, or you think something is unfair, unjust, you want to speak out, you want to take action, what's the appropriate way to do that, right? What's really helping the situation? What's really warranted? I don't think people are thinking through. And again, I think there's so much anger from what I'm seeing, so much aggression and so much anger that is just being riled up by this, as we mentioned, like, rhetoric and the things that are, being said. So it's just getting really amplified and escalating. Speaking of escalation, how do you guys think the media and social media is sort of amplifying things right now? Like, in your experience and what you're seeing?
Well, it feeds off of negativity. I mean, just look at everybody's engagement rate today. Like, if you reply on some of these posts or whatever, you'll come back to them and it's got like 50, 100,000, questions just from a little reply on this. Twitter, it goes wild for this stuff. Same with the media. The media is the same thing. Bad news sells. So they're gonna feed off this, and they're gonna eat up every minute of it. And so I don't know. It's just, it's bad. It's bad for people that live there. It's bad for people that got to deal with this shit on a daily basis. And then it's also bad because, we have these fraud scams going on where fake daycares are getting tons of money, where average Americans who actually send their kids to daycare are not getting the same kind of help that they could be getting from this. Why are people paying so much for daycare when they were giving out billions, or, well, I don't know how much money was lost in these fraud scams or whatever, but like however many millions of dollars, like, how would that have helped, an actual person that's sending their kid to daycare? They can barely afford to do it. They have to decide whether the wife goes to work or she stays home with the kids, if it's monetarily good enough. I hear this all the time from people, and, and then you hear about these fraud scams going on, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why can't we get help for regular people that are doing the right thing?
Well, I want to say too, that's when I started to see more people coming in from out of town in LA with the riots, because what you'll notice is, like your friend whose business burned down, we had a lot of small businesses burned down, And then during the like all the different fires, and then they were looting and everything else in LA, which a lot of people can attest to. All these small business owners, these are neighbors. These are real families that other people in the communities knew. And I can tell you, I had left and right friends there. And so it doesn't matter. We don't look at it like, oh, you're a Democrat or Republican. If you go shopping at that store or you get your coffee at this, you learn to love those people if you see them every day and you have a heart for them. And what I can tell you is when that started happening, I don't believe it was the people in the communities anymore protesting. I don't believe a lot of the non-peaceful protesters are those who are burning down buildings and burning down small businesses and looting, because at the end of the day, they do have jobs. A lot of those people were the ones that were out walking with signs on the weekends. They may have gotten a little rowdy, but it was truly the criminals that were coming in and doing the looting. It was people from out of town that was actually burning cop cars down. And those are really the people that we should be going after. We should have after hours. I saw like Kash Patel posted something like $100,000 like award for because they broke in and vandalized a bunch of like I don't know if it was police, ICE agent cars. It was something in the last day, 24 hours. And I'm like, well, where were these officers? And should we have more officers there? And this is another great example of why we need the National Guard, because National Guard they didn't go home at night. I can tell you that they had on duty and off duty officers. And I think that's a huge point to make. And I think as time goes, especially with the news happening, no offense to Republicans, I'm all for it. But like, there's a lot of Republicans who are not about the Somali fraud daycares. And now every Republican is hitting the road and finding all the Somali daycares. Okay. So as much as everyone's grifting for this story, the left are like, oh, well, I'm going to join the George Soros fund and go get paid to be grift on this as well. Like, it goes both ways. And that's when you start to see people who are not in the community come in, make a scene, take photos, make a scene out of it. And then your community pays the price. And that's why we do at this rate, with all the media attention, with all the social media posting, tensions rising, I think the best thing we can do is bring in the National Guard.
All right. Well, if that does happen, what precedent does it set? Speaking of precedent, back to precedent and presidents. What does it set for future presidents? Because let's say, I know it's a wild take, a bold take, but if there is a Democratic president in the future, ever again, will they be more inclined to invoke the act in a red state crisis? Is that a hot take? I don't know.
I've never seen Republicans do this. The most I've ever seen is J6. And I'm still asking for Kash Patel. They just had another hearing yesterday and never brought up Ray Epps or any of the FBI agents that were on the ground. Nobody really knows the truth about J6 and what incited and how many of what numbers. We'll never know the truth there. I don't even want to go down that road. But I still think that we need to look at the facts here. Republicans don't do this shit. We're cowards. We're afraid. Our own DOJ won't even arrest people. Today, Republicans, we have majority and we voted on a Democratic spending bill.
Well, they're cowards. We don't do that shit in small. Like, I live in small town Georgia. Like, that would never happen here. Like, nobody's gonna ever riot or do anything. Like, people they got better shit to do. So, she was laughing about it too because she knows it's the truth. It'll never happen here. So, in
a red state, it won't happen because a lot of people made this point. If you're a state that you can own a gun too, where in California, you can't just own a gun. You can't just walk. You can't even, if somebody walks in your house, you cannot shoot them technically. Mm-hmm. If someone opens my door, I could shoot them. And that's because you walked in my house. You have no right to walk through my yard, anything like that. And a lot of these red states, people don't mess around because people walk around with guns. It's a fact. Like, we don't do things like that. Also, smaller towns, you tend to see DAs and everybody knows each other. They don't allow things like that to go on. you get arrested like for little petty crimes in small towns because they need the money to fund the jails.
Right. Yeah, it just doesn't, like, that'll never happen in this place, that's for sure.
Thank you so much, Fanny, for reposting the stream. Okay, final maybe question on this. Which side or both sides is guilty of manufacturing chaos for political gain?
I think it's the bad actors, right? It's not like, you know, in that's the thing is, like, you know, these people are playing off this whole thing, right? You have the politicians that are trying to get reelected or whatever, and they trying to do their thing or whatever, and you know, trying to make sure that they're getting their donations and all that stuff or whatever. Then you have the media that feeds off the negativity. They love having chaos. They love having this thing. And then there's these bad actors that are funding these people coming in here. They're going to fund rioters. They're getting banged for their buck right now, and they love it because that's exactly what they want. They want chaos. They want, and it's crazy that we can't, like, they go after the people on the street. But the thing is if you go after the funders, a lot of this stuff ends. If you're not flying people in, if you're not paying people to go there, regular people have better things to do with their life. They might go out and protest a couple times, but they're not going to be out there pushing down ICE agents. They're not going to be down there, you know, risking getting shot and stuff like that. They have work on Monday. You know what I mean? They just not going to be doing this stuff. And so if they go after these people that are funding this shit, a lot of it will go away. But they're not. They're afraid of it. They're afraid of it because it's not directly tied to them. And then they pretend like, oh, you know, it's just I'm just funding this NGO, you know, this Save the Children NGO or whatever that I've been lobbying for or whatever that happens to fund fucking rioters. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, I think both sides can be guilty of all of, like, it can go both ways to me. So, and hold on, I have to bring this because I don't want the haters to think that I won't acknowledge their comments and thoughts. This is boring AF, yet here you are. Angela, you're only an F list. At least I'm on the F list. I think that means effable, right? The F list. Because you're just trying. See, I told you there's comedy in the show. Just trying to confuse people with what side of the aisle. I'm really not. I mean, if you know anything about what I've been talking about, like, I'm very real with what's going on.
John Fetterman, again, he came out and supported ICE, and I retweeted and said, hey, John Fetterman, we could use you. Actually, John Fetterman didn't vote for the bill today. He's starting to become one of my new favorite people in DC, and it's not normal. I honestly think that both parties right now, and I'll say this fairly, that Angela is just not far left. I think I agree, Fetterman rules. I think that, like, Angela sees things common sense. She might have some bold takes, some disagreements with some of the far right, but I think we all can meet in the middle. I think a lot of us that are out there, we all see through the political theater at this point. Mm-hmm. And we just want to get back to our normal lives and, like, not have to worry about, from somebody who lives in a big city. Angela, I know you lived in New York for a long time. You didn't used to have to, like, ask people, like, where, like, politics didn't always, they weren't in every subject. Like, you could go out to bars, you could go out to dinner, and you would meet people, and it didn't matter, like, where you work. You could be a very far right Republican and work for the Republican Party, and it didn't matter. Now it's like, somehow it's even brought up in fashion. It's brought up in, it's brought up in music. It's brought up everywhere. And at some point, like, we just need to realize maybe we need to start saying the Pledge of Allegiance again. We're under one nation. Like, we all need to find a common ground here.
Yeah. Preach, Madeline.
Like,
I agree with all of that.
As a Republican,
yes.
For Angela here, she has different takes than us, and she just puts up with all of us.
Puts up with. No, I mean, this is meaningful stuff. All the people who are scared to have dialogue and conversations, like, we're not getting anywhere that way.
I have a great idea. Why don't any of these people who have some like talk shit to Angela? We would love to have you on the like show. I know Jay
Put your face.
Yeah, Jay and I
Where
are
your
on
mouth
here
is.
regularly. I'll take one for the team, and you can like come at me. Just the only deal is you gotta show your face.
Yeah, you got to put your face where your mouth is.
You gotta have some skin in the game, and then we'll like actually take what you say seriously.
Yeah. So DM me, and we'll be happy to chat with you.
Don't DM me, I'll block you.
I would love to hear I would love to hear your take and get it. That's the sad thing. It's like you watch these shows and like it is an echo chamber. Like I wish there were more people that would like get on and actually have like a different take than like me. I mean, me and Jay, I roll my eyes at Jay all the time. You know, speaking of comedy, like me and Jay are on the same side and I roll my eyes at Jay all the time. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are welcoming different perspectives and points of view. And we are trying to do that, but it's all a matter of who wants to come and have the conversations. So I do invite anyone really who wants to, because you can see we're able to do it in a respectful way. So we've had a lot of, not agreed about things in here, and we're able to still talk, and we're all about it. So let's do it. Okay. So last thing, guys, Tim Walz. Back to Tim. I want to hear your hot takes on this, your bold takes. So Tim starts out by saying, I'm making a direct appeal to the president. Let's turn the temperature down. Sounds nice. Stop this campaign of retribution. This is not who we are. And an appeal to Minnesotans. I know this is scary. We must speak out loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. We cannot fan the flames of chaos. That's what he wants. To me, it's a little like fighting fire with fire. Like it's a little contradictory to me, right? I don't know if you guys see it the same way, or anyone in the chat, please feel free to weigh in. But it's like, it starts out kind of nice. Like, okay, let's tone it down. Let's take the temperature down. Let's be peaceful. But then you go right back to the nastiness and the insults, right?
Yeah.
And no matter what side it is, that doesn't help anything.
Yeah, I mean, 10 minutes later, he'd be calling them the ICE agents, the Gestapo, and saying that they're Nazis and stuff like that, and really they're just customs agents trying to do their job. So I just don't like he of all people, like that's the ultimate gaslight right there. Like, like he's the one stoking the flames. Like he's the one trying to. I don't know. Like
I saw that and I was like, Tampon Tim, like growing a pair of balls for like 5 seconds, and like wanting to say that is actually a joke and hilarious in itself. You should be in jail. Let's pull the like Hillary Clinton Trump line. Like there should be an open there already is an investigation on Tim Walz. I don't understand why. But here's the thing. If all of these leaders, again, are going to continue to speak all on this rhetoric, then you know what? To me, I would think it would gaslight Bondi to just want to get in there and indict him quicker. Like, just because you indict someone doesn't mean you're going to trial tomorrow, especially in a case like that. There's a lot of time in between.
He's not running for not doing re-election because he wants to step down, like because he's morally like he feels the heat. Like the thing is like some of these scams or whatever, and you can see them in pictures or whatever, they probably got political donations through these scams from these people. And so that's what they need to do. They need to run that down. Look at these people, look at the ones that were really fraudulent, and find out who they donated politically to. And then look at, were they seen in places together? Did they ever meet with them? Did they do some legislation that helped this business personally? And so run that down, and I'll guarantee you that's why he's stepping down. I promise you that.
Follow the money.
Yeah, no, he's way too close to all of this, and that's exactly why he's stepping down. And thank God he is. He's a freaking idiot. But like seriously, like but his wife's a fucking kook. Like likes the smell of burning tires and shit. Like, what is wrong with her? But anyways, like, I don't know. It's just a bad look for that state, who has had a bunch of weird governors too. Like Jesse, I voted for Jesse Ventura too, and he was good for a little bit, but man, that dude went crazy. Like that, he is a whack job now.
Well, yeah, I wanted to let you guys know in case you didn't see it in the chat. We turned JC right around. Haha, thanks for the shout out. I guess saying outrageous shit does get you spotlight. May do it more often. But hey, see, this is how we make meaningful change. We change people's minds. They get to know us as human beings, right, Madeline? We were talking about that earlier. Yeah. You get to see us, the faces, the actual people behind the whatever posts, the social media posts, and you're like, oh, I actually like them. They're pretty cool. Yeah, we are.
Well, and you hear personal, because our tweets don't have a lot of nuance to them. And so even hearing like Jay's personal encounters and stories, mine, Angela lived in New York and has her stories. I lived in LA, and a lot of us have lived different parts of the world before. And I would say we've been around a lot of different people and have takes that you would not expect all of us to have. And so, it helps a lot when you get to know people and the accounts behind the faces behind the accounts.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you often say, Madeline, it takes a lot to put yourself out there. So it's right. Like we talk about keyboard warriors and like, come in, show your face. Like like we're putting ourselves out there and we get constantly attacked for that. Constantly. Like everyone has an opinion, judgments, negative things to say, and we deal with it because we feel like it's important to use our platforms, for what we think matters and can make a positive difference. And I mean, some people might not have that purpose, but I feel like I can confidently say that we do. So,
well, all three of us have been on the ground too, working on campaigns and helping different people get elected. And we see what's going on too. And I think that can make a big difference. A lot of people on X, you can have hot takes all day. And I'm so glad people are in having their political dialogue. But at the same time, when all of us are putting ourselves out there, we're also putting ourselves in the line of fire because all three of us do go and help different candidates. We are a part of working with different elections. And so, yeah, I think it puts us also in the line of fire. And everyone knows political violence is a huge thing. And we all get threatened every day in our my DMs and my comments, just all I have to do is say the hot take on certain subject and I get threatened all the time. So it is what it is. And I'm not over here calling the FBI or calling the police, but when I have been out in public and I have been at like a grocery store and at like 9 o'clock at night and had a couple like come up to me and like back me up in my car about my, my political post. And so for people who like to say these things online, just know we also do have to live. Like I was just going to Ralph's, at 9 o'clock at night to grab some food. And I got like this old couple just like came and like backed me up to the car. And so, yeah, I do think people don't realize that we do have to remember the things we say, where you guys can all say things in the comments and it's like no big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. I encourage everyone to think a little harder about your approach. You can disagree, you can whatever, have your opinions, but like there's a way to do it, right? And we talk about that quite a bit too, about approach and like what makes people actually listen to you versus coming at someone nasty, attacking them with a certain tone. Anyways, so, like do you, be you, but think about the person that you want to be. And yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. It's true. We all do deal with, and that's terrible that happened to you, Madeline. Absolutely. Like, yeah, again, people.
I was just giving that, and that's not even a sob story. It's more of just like an everyday interaction of like, I say hot takes, which I agree are hot. Some of my takes can be very hot. And I don't expect people to be proud of what I'm saying or like what I'm saying. But I also don't expect to be accosted at my Kroger at 9 o'clock at night in the dark. with my little girl who's 4 years old. So again, these are the things that I just try to tell people. Like, we all have friends on both sides of the aisle. We all have family on both sides of the aisle. All three of us have very different political views. Even though Jay and I are on the same side, we have different views on things. So I just like, especially for your podcast, because you do have so many people who like to attack us and attack you. I just want to make that point, because I think especially right now with what's going on in Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great point to make. And political violence, I think, should be on the ballot. I think it should be a subject that doesn't die. It's not just because Charlie Kirk. I mean, we're seeing it across the country. We're seeing it in our own friends and our own families. It's sad.
Yeah. And I'm looking at videos now that Tim Young just posted a video. They're tearing down fences. It looks like around Fort Snelling, I guess, around the federal building. And then Amuse just posted one of rioters tonight. They just got pepper sprayed and stuff. And so they're washing their face off in the street or whatever. So it's just stupid.
Yeah.
And that's bad that he got shot and he's blind now.
Yeah, accomplishes nothing.
Crazy.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you guys so much. This has been another amazing conversation. I appreciate your time. There's so much going on. And again, it takes a lot to be here, to have the talks, to show your face, to give your hot takes. And I couldn't do this without you. So thank you both so much. Everybody, follow them, support them, show them all the love, tune into all of their shows and streams and whatever they've got going on. Madeline, Jay, I heart you both. You rock. I really enjoyed this a lot.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, guys, so much.
Bye.
Bye. Good night. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for chatting with us, all of you, no matter whether you agree with us, you hate us, you disagree, but hopefully you've enjoyed this chat. I think it's been a really great one. I think we covered a lot of different angles, a lot of different how people are feeling about what's going on with, Minnesota and ICE. And so I appreciate you guys being here and weighing in, because we always love to hear what you have to say, what you're thinking, your concerns, your opinions. So thank you so much. Couldn't do it without all of you. Appreciate your support. If you are giving me encouragement, I appreciate you so much, because as we were mentioning, there's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of trolling, and it comes with the territory, and fine. But I do appreciate y'all so much who message me and, show me love and keep me going. So thank you for that. But I also do welcome whatever feedback you have. And I do care. I want to make this show entertaining and helpful and engaging for all of you in the audience. And yeah, I care about you. I care about people. Every single one of you, whether guest, audience, everybody. I just, I care about our well-being, our quality of life, the issues that are important to all of us. And part of these conversations, the purpose is really to show how much we do have in common and how we do care a lot about the same things. We might have different ideas on how to approach those things or how to solve those problems, how to, deal with those issues. But if we don't talk about it together and brainstorm and put it all out on the table, it's all just, I don't know. Hopefully we kind of stay divided, and I don't know. So, Bobby, thank you so much. This is so nice. I really appreciate it. We appreciate you your show bringing multiple sides together. Bridge architects are important. I appreciate you, Bobby. Thank you so much for saying that. That is the purpose. I know sometimes people are confused about what my purpose is, but it really is that. It is trying to bring people together, building bridges, bridging gaps, gaps, all the things, the architecture, that's what we're working on. So thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for chatting with us. I don't know if I'm going to do an impromptu live stream tomorrow or not. It kind of depends on my potential guest, Vicki Richter. She's currently working on a documentary. She's already got parts of it out, but it's about the Islamization of the West. And she's traveling and might be back to do it tomorrow. But if not, I will catch you guys on our next Bold Voices live stream, which will be Tuesday. It's every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we do that one religiously. So if I don't catch you tomorrow, I will see you hopefully on Tuesday. If you guys are free and want to tune in, we would love to have you. Bold Voices live streams on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Always love to have you guys. Thank you so much. Wishing you lots of love. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. I'm sending you all the most positive vibes. Thank you so much. Stay bold, be you. Have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you guys so much. All the love. And please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already.